All right, today we are going to learn the end of this week's Torah reading, and we're going to try to learn the entirety of this week's Haftorah. Haftorah is from the prophets. It's from Isaiah. There's 7 weeks in a row, the 7 weeks between Tisha B'Av, which was when the temple was destroyed, and Rosh Hashanah, which is the beginning of the year, 7 weeks of comfort. We read the comforting prophecies of Isaiah, where he prophesies Mashiach, and he prophesies that all the Jews will return to Jerusalem, and all the Jews will resume doing the commandments, and there'll be the holy temple. Will be built in Jerusalem, and all the nations will see that all this time, all those that have tried to make trouble for us, the Christians and the missionaries and the the heathens and all over the world that have tried to destroy the Jews, and the Romans, a lot of them don't even exist anymore. The Babylonians, no more. You ever see a Babylonian walking around? Anyway, Babylonians and the ancient Romans and the ancient Greeks, and all these people were the representatives. Anyway, they'll regret what they did to us. But that's the prophecy that we read about. But let's read here the end of this week's Torah reading. Ready? Let's see how much we can get done. Okay, so we read all already. This week's Torah reading starts off with how the Jews come into the land of Israel, that they have to bring the first fruits. After they're there for 14 years and they divide up the land, then if they have any first fruits from the 7 species that Israel is praised by, dates and pomegranates and figs and grapes and olives and wheat and rye, it says, as you have to bring to the Holy Temple. We learned the whole thing, put in a basket, and you have to make this declaration. Then we learned about bringing the tithes. Bringing Truma and Meiser Rishon, Meiser Sheni, Trumas Meiser Oni, in the 3rd year, the 3rd year and the 6th year. So we learned about that. But then we learned about the bris, the covenant that God made with the Jews, and on Har Grizim and Har Evel, the blessing and the curses. And then we learned the 98 curses which are awaiting the Jews to be transformed into blessings. Okay, and now we finished that. Now here we go. Moses called all the Jews and he said, what do you mean he called? Where were they? So the Ramban said, after Moses finished telling them all about this covenant that God made with them, he called them another time and he said, listen, Jews, because the fact is they really didn't go away. He just caught their attention again. He said, the HaChaim says a little different. He said, the HaChaim says, up until now he was talking to the Jews, but now he gathered together the women and the children and the converts. And he said, and this is right next to next week's Torah portion, you are all standing today, all of them. And anyway, he said, what did God say? Moses spoke to all the Jews. God is speaking through Moses here, right? God spoke, and he said to them, you have seen everything that God has done before your eyes in the land of Egypt, to Paro and all of his servants and to all of his land. How God decimated the whole place. The whole world is in God's control. Hamasot HaGedolot, the amazing miracles. He says, Nisim, Rabbi, the amazing miracles that your eyes saw, and the signs and the proofs, these great proofs that you saw. But nevertheless, God has not given you a heart to know, or eyes to see, or ears to hear until this very day. Says Rashi, what does it mean? He didn't give you eyes to see. Of course they saw. They didn't have a heart to understand. They were praising, they were singing a lot of times. When they went over the Yam Suf, didn't they sing? They didn't recognize. Rashi says he didn't recognize the tremendous kindness of God, and to repay him, by clinging to him. You were always complaining all the time until this very day. I heard, it says Rashi, what do you mean until this very day? That on that day, Moses took a Sefer Torah and he gave it to the tribe of Levi. Now, Moses, of course, was from the tribe of Levi, right? Like it says, and he gave the Kohanim B'nai Levi. It says they gave the Kohanim. We'll see, this is going to be later. And all the Jewish people came to Moses and they said, hey, Moshe Rabbeinu, we also were at Mount Sinai. We also received the Torah, and God gave it to us. Why are you only giving it to your tribe? You want your tribe to be better than everybody else? Vayomru lanu yom machar. You said, yes, just wait another day, I'll give it to you. Lo lachem nitna. God didn't give it just to the Levites, he gave it to everybody. And Moses was very happy. And therefore he said, now I see that you are really a nation. You really want the Torah. Today I understood that you are demanding God. So in a way he's saying, God did not give you eyes to hear. In other words, I had doubts. That's what Rashi says. I had doubts if you really appreciated the Torah or not. And now I don't have any doubts whatsoever. It says the Balaturim, it says 40 years they wandered in the desert. It says, I took you 40 years in the desert. This is to tell you that a person does not really understand his rabbi, his teacher, until 40 years after he receives the lessons. In other words, then he really understands. God did not give you eyes to see, even though that God did give you all of his laws, his Torah, and his big miracles. And he tried to give you a heart in order to know, like it says, Laman, to sapir biyadatem, you'll tell others. God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, and he's saying, the reason I'm giving it to you is so that you'll understand and that you'll tell your children. But nevertheless, we see that the Jewish people really didn't get it. Why? Mirov marechem. Sorry. Lo husag zeh hamakuvan mirov marechem. You didn't really get the point, right? Because I think this is what it means. Because you were always very bitter and you were always complaining. We see that you didn't really get the point of the Torah. God said, I took you 40 years in the desert. Your garments did not wear out. Your shoes did not become also wear out from on your feet. Here we learn that when they were in the clouds of glory that surrounded them, it washed their clothes and kept their shoes and everything fresh. So they didn't, 40 years, they didn't really have to change their clothes. It was always fresh and new all the time, everything there. There was another amazing miracle. You didn't have to eat any bread. You didn't have to drink any wine or other beverages. You had bread, man falling from heaven, and you had water from rock, even though, of course, they did eat bread. And Moses even said that when you go to the Moab, you should buy food from them, etc. So they did have, once in a while, they did eat bread. And it also says that when they were with, they had to make a place to go to the bathroom. When they had to make toilets outside of the camp. And it's known that the manna that they ate didn't have any waste in it. So this is the other things that they ate. In other words, you didn't have to eat any bread and you didn't have to drink any wine. I did this only that you'll know that I am God. Even though the bread and the wine that you do eat, it didn't come from the world. It didn't come from the earth. It came from me. And I was the one that said that the way you get it is from the earth. You have to work on it. But it's a big miracle. Now you're coming to this land. And remember, Sichon came out. The Sichon, you remember who Sichon was? He was the king of Heshbon. And Og, he was the king of Bashan, and they make a war with you. They were huge, and you defeated them, Rashi. And now you see yourself, you think, oh, we won all these battles, we're really great. Al tabatu b'makom, don't scoff at God. Al yurum v'avachem, and don't be haughty. Ushmartem et dibra abris, you have to watch this covenant. In other words, just because you won all these battles and you made it through the desert, don't think you're something special and that you're better than everybody else. You're the chosen people, and I chose you. It says, don't let it go to your head. Don't let it go to your head. you have to understand that you have to be secondary to God and that you are basically servants of the whole world. You have to benefit the whole world. Here's another explanation. God did not give you a heart to know, eyes to hear, ears to hear. A person cannot possibly really understand his teacher until 40 years later. Therefore, I'm not angry at you. God is not angry at you until this day because you didn't know. But now, from now on, says Moses to the Jewish people, up to now you had a good excuse. You didn't really have eyes to hear, eyes to see, ears to hear. You didn't really get it because that's the nature. God put things into people. That you're a teacher teaches a pupil if it's a lesson in life, and it takes a long time for it to be absorbed. So therefore, you left Egypt 40 years ago. God's been telling you what to do. You received the Torah, but I can understand that you didn't accept it. You didn't really internalize it. But now it's going to be different. You should take their land, and it has been given as an inheritance. The land of Sichon and Og, right? Moab and Ammon. There's lands on the other side of the Jordan River. This has been given to Reuven and Gad and the half of the tribe of Manasseh. In any case, so all right, ready? You're all ready to go in, says Moses to the people. You're all ready to go into the land of Israel. Observe this covenant, this agreement, this eternal brit that God has made, and do it in order that you will you'll have, intellect. You'll do the right thing. Everything you'll do will be with intelligence. All this, the covenant that I'm going to be making with you. Says the Sophrano, you'll keep this covenant. You'll accept on yourself that the covenant we just made now on Mount Gerizim and Mount Abel, in addition to the covenant that we made on Mount Sinai, in order that you will do everything with properly, intelligent. You'll understand what is the purpose, what is the reason for everything that you do in this world, and this Chayolam, and I'm sorry, in eternal life and in temporary life. Everything that you do will be with intelligence and logic. Everything you make, how you make money, everything you deal with in day-to-day life will be in view of the big picture. Says the Kli Yakar, Moses is telling the Jewish people, be careful with this covenant. He says, because the commandment, one commandment draws another commandment, therefore, he says that one commandment will draw and cause that you will understand everything that you're doing. Because each one drags its other one. So every commandment, why does one commandment drag another one? Because if you're doing things just for yourself, so you have no comprehension of God. But once you get a little bit of a taste of what God is, and this is only really through the commandments, then you want to do more commandments. And that's what it says, schar mitzvah mitzvah, the reward of a commandment is the commandment itself. That's what it says, shamartem v'asitem otam. You should be careful and do them. Be careful means ki ashmira, when you are careful with the commandments and you do them, this will draw and cause that you'll have a reward. What's the reward? You'll want to do another commandment. And this will even do more. The more commandments you do, the more you want to do. And the commandment itself is the reward, just the fact that you're doing God's will. That's the end of this week's Torah portion. Now let's try to do the Haftorah. Right? Here we go. Beautiful Haftorah.